It is about women in the Bible, specifically the Old Testament. So we are going to be talking about different women in the Bible. March is Women's History Month, so that's the reason why we're starting that now. Such a sweet spirit in here this evening. If we could bow our head, I know we already started in prayer, but God, I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for bringing us here to this evening. Thank you for your spirit that is already here, God, the sweet spirit that you have in this room tonight, God. Thank you for that. Thank you for just blanketing us in your spirit, covering us in your spirit, being with us in the spirit, God. You've led me to do a study on prayer, and I need to start out with, God, you are strong and you are loving. So you are strong and you are loving. And God, I thank you for this series. I'm always excited to read about women, especially in ancient times, who have stepped forward and done whatever it is, done the thing that you have asked them to do. So God, I'm excited to talk about Rebecca this evening and what she did and how she did what you asked her to do, God. And we just say thank you for that. Thank you for the information that you have already given. Thank you for the information that will be brought forth this evening, God, that I pray that we all, that we all learn about not just Rebecca, but ourselves, whether we're male or female, that we learn about you, God, and stepping forward in what it is you have for us. And I just want to say thank you, God, for this opportunity. And we say amen and amen. So I thought it was ironic once again that I'm teaching in Sunday school, and I'm teaching on comfort. The Goliath of comfort must fall. And that's these women that they needed to step out of their comfort zone. So tonight I am talking specifically about Rebecca. And the book is centering around these women's characters. So not necessarily all of the things that they have done, but their character. Their character. And how, I just find it interesting how God God led them to Rebecca. And what Rebecca did in order to find favor in their eyes. I'm going to geek out a little bit about this. I love telling some of this little trivia stuff. So I just want to let you know right now, just don't snore if you fall asleep. But I was really excited about this information. So we are going to be in Genesis 24. That's where we meet Rebecca. And really the whole chapter, which is long, but I'll skip some of it as we go. So these women in the Old Testament, sometimes it's a patriarchal society, or I can't remember how we pronounce, I don't even know how to pronounce the other word he said, but it's a patriarchal society, so it revolves around the men, right? So when the men make the decisions, the men do this, the men do that, etc. Passing things down from one person to the next, it goes through the males. So we'll see a little bit different here with Rebecca as we get started. Is there anybody who would mind reading some? We're reading, 67 or 62? I think it's 67 verses. We won't read all of them, but is there anybody who wouldn't mind reading some? Because we'll start out with verses 1 through 6. Okay, we are going to do Genesis 24, 1 through 6 to get started. And I think it's funny how they start out that Abraham was old. Duh, he had Isaac when he was 99, and we're talking about Isaac. But anyway, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, Genesis 24, and I have the New King James.
That's good.
Is that okay? Now Abraham was old, well advanced in age, and the Lord had blessed Abraham in all things. So Abraham said to the oldest servant of his house, who ruled over all that he had, "Please put your hand under my thigh, and I will make you swear by the Lord, the God of heaven and the God of the earth, that you will not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites, among whom I dwell, But you shall go to my country and to my family, and take a wife for my son Isaac. And the servant said to him, Perhaps the woman will not be willing to follow me to this land. Must I take your son back to the land from which you came? But Abraham said to him, Beware that you do not take my son back there.
All right, so we start out with Abraham is worried about his son. His son needs a wife. So be thinking about, well, one, we know that to have children is a blessing. I live here and with the Canaanites. I don't want him to take a wife here. Why would that be?
Was that still part of like the covenant not to marry people outside of your?
Yes. So he wanted to keep his bloodline pure. That's not what it says here, but stay within the sons of Israel, one of the 12 tribes. So he wanted him to go back and find a wife where he used to be. Why did Abraham move? Because God said what? Get up and go. You're going somewhere else. So he had already gone up and he had already went. So he is talking to his servant and said, please go find my son a wife. I thought it was interesting. Why can't he find his own? I didn't delve into all of that, so we'll just leave that part there. All right? So then we're going to go to just verse 7.
The Lord God of heaven, who took me from my father's house and from the land of my family, and who spoke to me and swore to me, saying, To your descendants I give this land, he will send his angel before you, and you will take a wife for my son from there.
All right, so he is saying, God told me to get up and leave my land. My son's wife needs to come from this land where I was from. So I need someone to go back there and do that for me. So he is searching for the matriarch of the Israelites. How do we know that already? How do we know that she is going to be the matriarch for this family? How many children did Abraham have that would inherit the covenant? He had one. He had Isaac. So Abraham and his wife Sarah aren't going to fill the earth, right? It's going to start with the next generation. So we know that this woman that's being found is going to be very important. She is going to be the matriarch of this family. All right, verse 8 and 9.
And if the woman is not willing to follow you, then you will be released from this oath. Only do not take my son back there. So the servant put his hand under the thigh of Abraham, his master, and swore to him concerning this matter.
All right, so there are two instructions for finding a wife for Isaac. One, she has to come from his family, his line of people. And two, do not take my son there. If she's not going to follow, then you're free to go and do whatever you want. But don't take my son there. But that woman has to do what? Leave her family and go to Abraham's family. So she has to leave her land. All right? So, now here is verse 10. I'm going to read verse 10. Then the servant took 10 of his master's camels and departing, taking all sorts of choice gifts from his master, and he rose and he went to Mesopotamia to the city of Nahor. So he took camels at the time. They needed camels because they were going through the desert. So they left from where Abraham was living, which was Negev, I think that's how you pronounce it, to Nahor. 500 miles. So this servant had to travel 500 miles to make it back to Abraham's, I'm just going to say hometown, that's easier to say. Going back to Abraham's hometown. 500 miles. All right, so how long does it take for us to go 500 miles? If we were to go 500 miles, I believe that is around Memphis. I think that's 500 miles, might be a little less. How long, does anybody know how long it takes to drive to Memphis? About 6 hours to drive. How long was it going to take this guy to go from Negev to Nahor? 6 years, 7 months, 32 hours, and 77 seconds. No. It's going to take, on average, 25 to 30 days one way. So he's going to be traveling for a long time. Depends on, they specifically said they're taking camels, so it's going to take him a while. Depends on how much he's taking. How much stuff is he taking? Why does he, my thought was, why does one man need 10 camels for 2 people? He was taking gifts. Later we find out he did take some other people with him. Really doesn't say how many, but he did take a few other men with him. So he's taking all of this, walking through the desert. Now the camel part is also important. What do we know about camels? They can store water and they can drink water. That is a myth. They do not store water. I always thought that's why they have the hump. We were always told they store the water in their hump. No, they do not. This is the part I'm geeking out on. So they do not store water like their hump. You could poke a hole and water comes squirting out. They store it. They can store it extra in their blood, in their different tissues, and blah, blah. Their hump is part of that, but it's like a tissues, so it's stored in their tissues. They can go up to 10 days without drinking a drop of water. So I thought that was pretty cool. So they take the camels. They can go through the desert because the animals can make it through the desert. They have... the whole route is set up to go from one oasis to the next. Does everybody know what an oasis is? Like randomly? A place where there's water. And there's always trees because there's water. So it's just kind of this random thing, but they know where they are, so they go from that spot to that spot, all right? And so they know that they can make this 25, 30-day trip with the camels because they don't have to have that much water. They can stop along the way, and they could go however many days traveling without getting water, all right? So they're going, Negev is in the desert. That's where Abraham lives. He lives in the desert. It is, if you look on the map, you have Israel, and then if you go down and east, or is it west? I'm not really sure. West. You are still in the desert, right? So what do we know about a desert? It doesn't have much water. What else? It's hot. Actually, it can be extremely cold in a desert, but this one is hot. What else? If I need to have some goats for food, I'm going to have to buy the food. I'm going to have to make sure there's enough water. I need to take care of these animals. I need to take care of whatever. Nahor is in Mesopotamia. Anybody know anything about Mesopotamia? Mesopotamia is, yes, go right ahead. Let's hear it. They do believe in other gods there, yep. Speak it, brother.
in farming.
Yes. So what does fertile mean?
It's able to grow.
Able to grow what? People?
Plants.
Plants. All right. So they're in, it's called, another name is the Fertile Crescent. It is also the place, they believe, where the Garden of Eden was at. No one is for sure on that, but that is the speculation. So Mesopotamia is between the Tigris and the Euphrates. So it's that spot in between those rivers. There's always water there. That means there's always plants there. That means there's always animals there. It's an abundant place to live. When I was teaching, I would say, okay, if you didn't ever have a house, where would you want to live? You have to live by water, because water can give you, of course, water. It can give you food, and it can give you transportation. So you have all of those things with the two rivers there. So this place that they were from was very rich. They had lots and lots of trade. Because why? They had the goods. They could grow food. They could grow crops. They could get all these things. So there was always people in and out. It was a rich place. It was the place to be. So Rebecca, we know, would live in this place. She lived in the Fertile Crescent, as our young man said, and it was a rich place to be. Comfortable. Again, I thought of our Sunday school lesson. She lived in comfort there because she always had food, she always had water, they always had transportation. So this is where the servant, which we never find out his name, we don't know who he is for sure, but the servant goes and is traveling to this spot. It doesn't say if they're traveling directly to that spot or not, but that is where he is going. That's where he ends up, all right? So verse 11. And he made the camels kneel down outside the city by the well of water at the time of evening, the time when women go out to draw water. So he got there at just the right time. He has the camels kneel down, and we're ready to get the water. This is where we see Rebecca's character. We're going to find out a lot of things about her character. So the women would go, they would get the water in the evening, and they would take their container to get the water. So when you go to get the water, you got your container, you go literally to a well. It doesn't say how this particular well worked, whether there was a rope and a pulley, if you just dipped it in there, it doesn't say. But the servant and his camels ended up at this well at just the right time of night when the women would come out. Pretty amazing. He just went 500 miles, and he got to the place he needed to be exactly on time. It sounds like, I'm not sure, but I think God might have been involved in this a little bit. So he led the servant 500 miles to this exact spot at just the right time. So if somebody would want to read verse 12 through 14.
I can do it. Then he said, O Lord, God of my master Abraham, please give me success this day and show kindness to my master Abraham. 13. Behold, here I stand by the well of water, and the daughters of the men of the city are coming out to draw water. Now let it be that the young woman to whom I say, please let down your pitcher that I may drink, and she says, drink, and I will also give your camels a drink. Let her be the one you have appointed for your servant Isaac. And by this I will know that you have shown kindness to my master.
All right, so he is praying to God. To me, it sounds like he doesn't believe in God, but he knows that Abraham believes in God, so he's got a little belief going on, and he's talking to God. How many people, and again, this goes back to what we talked about on Sunday, stepping out of your comfort zone, have done something, or God has asked you to do something, and you say to God, can you do it this way so that I really know it's from you? If I'm going to do this, then I need to know X, Y, Z. If I'm going to talk, I need to know, I need to be all of these things. This is what the servant is saying. I'm here at the water, God. Let the woman come that needs to come. But when I say this, she needs to say that. Has anybody ever had that experience? God, if this is going to be true, then this person does this and I do that. Has that ever happened to anybody? I've given the testimony that I did that with Minister Retta. I didn't know her very well at the time, and God told me that I needed to tell her X, Y, Z. I let her tell the story of what was said and leave it at that. But I said, okay, God, how is Minister Retta really going to listen to me? I'm just me. She's a minister. She's like important. She's like, been here forever. What do I have to give her? So if this is going to happen, then the next time I see her, there needs to be nobody else around. And then I'll tell her. And that was a Sunday. We were in the sanctuary. I left the sanctuary. I came back in for whatever reason. Guess what? She was in the sanctuary, and there was no one else here on a Sunday. And I was like, I guess I'm telling her, God. And God's like, mm-hmm. So I went over, and I said, blah, blah, blah. And she looks at me. We've all seen that face from Minister Etta. Okay. She said a couple other things that went along with what I said, and she kind of leaves. And I'm thinking, well, that was successful. She was just, upset with me or whatever. She called me later in the evening and said, can you tell me what you said again? You just shocked me, and I want to write down what you said. And I was like, whoa, okay. So God will do that for you. But God also says, I am not going to do that for you all the time. I've asked you to do something. I need you to do it, right? So this servant said, when I see this lady and I say to her, please let down your jar that I may get a drink. And she will say, drink, and I will water your camels also. That's what he wanted to happen. All right? So, verse 12. Oh, no, I'm sorry, verse 15. Sorry. Anybody want to read 15 to 19?
And it happened before he had finished speaking.
All right, stop right there. It had happened, and he wasn't even done praying or speaking. So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Before he had finished speaking, that behold, Rebekah, who was born of Bethuel, son of Milcah, I think that's right, the wife of Nahor, Abraham's brother, came out with her pitcher on her shoulder. Now the young woman was very beautiful to behold, a virgin. No man had known her. And she went down to the well, filled her pitcher, and came up. And the servant ran to meet her and said, please let me drink a little water from your pitcher. So she said, drink, my lord. Then she quickly let her pitcher down to her hand and gave him a drink. And when she finished giving him a drink, she said, I will draw water for your camels also until they have finished drinking.
All right, we'll stop there. So, what happened? Exactly what he prayed for is exactly what happened. So he sees Rebekah. She's very beautiful. Whatever he saw, he was attracted to, and he went up and talked to her. And she says, oh, yeah, I'll give you a drink. And I will give water to your camels. So this is the part I was geeking out on, right? All right, so if you want to go to sleep, now's the time. So when she gave him a drink of water, she is carrying a pitcher. So when you're gathering the water at the well, you could have a pitcher, or mine says jar. You could have animal skins. You could have a bucket, all different things to draw the water. But she specifically had a pitcher. Now, I don't know if there's any spiritual significance to that, but I looked up, like, what is this pitcher look like? How does this work? And they said it was generally made out of rock or clay, some kiln-fired thing, and they generally weighed 10 pounds. And so she's carrying it. It sounds like on her shoulder, maybe on her head. It doesn't really say specifically that I saw. So she's carrying that. That weighs 10 pounds. So she got some water, and she gave some to the servant. How much does water weigh? Does anybody know? 8 pounds, a little over 8 pounds a gallon. So the pitcher was probably 5 gallons. They could be anywhere from 5 gallons to 30 gallons. So if she's carrying it on her shoulder, I'm just going to go with it was probably carried 5 gallons. That's just my guess. That's the low end, so we'll go with that. So what is 8 times 5? That's 40, right? Plus the 10 pounds for the pitcher. That's 50 pounds. So she already got a bucket of water, or a pitcher of water, about 50 pounds. She gave water to the camels. How many camels did she have? He had. There were 10 of them. A camel who has, they call it, if the camel is dehydrated, gone through the desert, and hasn't had much to drink in the last 6 to 10 days or none to drink, they can drink 40 gallons of water in less than a minute. Yeah. So they can just suck it up. So if each of those camels drank 40 gallons, 40 times 10 is 400. What is 400 times 50? What's 4 times 5? Add 2 zeros. 2,000 pounds. She probably, now they said that as they got closer to Nahor, that they were in the Fertile Crescent. They had water, so they probably drank. So they probably weren't dehydrated, so they probably only needed 5 gallons, because they drank 5 gallons at a minimum at a time. So 5 times 10, that's 50 gallons. 50 times 5, or 50 times 100 is, no, not 5,000, too many zeros. 500. She lifted up 500 pounds of water that she lowered into the well, picked it up, gave it to a camel, lowered it down, picked it up, gave it to a camel 10 times. She'd already done it once for herself. I don't know if she needed more water for the servant or not. It just said that she gave him water and watered all the camels. What kind of character does it take to water 10 camels at a minimum of 50 gallons of water by hand
A servant.
with a well? A servant. Selfless. What else? Caring. Generous. Strong. Imagine lifting minimum of 500 pounds at a time, or at that time, to give these animals water. Diligent. And she just said it. It wasn't like I would have looked at the camels and thought, that's a lot. Do I really want to haul up that much water? Oh, no. He said, can I have a drink? And she said, yes, and I'll water your camels. Like, I think that's just amazing. She doesn't know this man. She knows nothing about him. She might think he's rich because the camels had a lot of stuff on them, right? Because he brought the gifts and he brought this and he brought that. So she might look and go, oh, he's kind of rich. Maybe he was cute too. I don't know. But she immediately said, oh, and I'll give your camels water as well. That is pretty amazing. That is just amazing to me, right? All right, verse 21. And the man gazed at her in silence to learn whether the Lord had prospered his journey or not. Wow. Okay, not only the servant wanted this to be said and this to be said, he was also like, let me just be sure. He wanted to be sure that this woman was the one for his master's son. That is amazing. All right. Starting at verse 22. Why did I put 22 to 50? It must be 22 to 25. I put 22 to 55. All right, starting at verse 22. When the camels had finished drinking, the man, I think this is interesting, the man took a gold ring weighing a half a shekel and 2 bracelets for her arms weighing 10 gold shekels and said, please, tell me whose daughter you are. Is there room in your father's house for us to spend the night? She said to him, I'm the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Milcah, whom she bore to Nahor. So she said, oh yeah, here is this family. And the servant would know what? That's my master's family. Technically, Rebecca and Isaac are first cousins, but we won't go there. But he gave her this jewelry and said, yeah, that is exactly how they did it. All right, I know this family. I know this family. And she's like, come on and come with me. So at that time, it was never a big deal. When you went traveling, you literally just stayed at people's houses. You would go up to someone and say, hey, can I stay with you? And they're like, yeah, sure, come on in. Would we ever do that now? Yeah, no, probably not. We probably would not just say, okay, stranger person, come on into my house and, stay the night. But that was how they did it at the time. You were traveling, you just trusted people, yeah, come on in. Or you would sleep in the barn. Sleeping in the barn was not an insult. It was a place to stay. It was a place to be warm. It was a place to rest and have your animals be given a rest. So the servant goes to Rebecca's family's house. All right, so they go and hang out. She comes and says, here is my family. Come on in. They met the brother, met her mom, not her father. So they met the mom, Rebecca's mom, and not Rebecca's father. It doesn't say anything about Rebecca's father. It just says the mom was there, the brother was there. So was the father dead? We don't know. Was he just somewhere else? We don't know. It kind of makes, for a patriarchal society, that could be unusual for there to be no father in the house, but the brother was there, so there was still the male in the house. All right? So we're going to skip it down to, let me make sure I got that. Verse 56. We're going to skip down to 56. And it says, and he being the servant, and the men who were with him ate and drank, and they spent the night there. Oh, that was his servants that were with the servant, sorry. So when they arose in the morning, the servant said, send me away to my master. Her brother and her mother said, let the young woman remain with us for a while, at least 10 days. After that, she may go. So he is like, we're going to leave in the morning. We're going to take the girl with us. Did they say, no, you can't take her? What did they say? Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, we could take her. But let her stay for a few more days to say goodbye. So the servant's like, and he really wants to get back. Why? He's free when he gets back. He was given that promise that when he gets back, he's free. Or if the lady that he talks to won't come with him, he's also free because he's a servant. So he had to fulfill some obligation of some kind to be removed from servanthood. All right. So they say, well, give us 10 days so we can say goodbye. And I lost my place. There we go, 54. Thank you. 56. But he said to them, do not delay me, since the Lord has prospered my way. Send me away that I may go to my master. So he's like, I've done been on the road for 25, 30 days. And I've been here another night. I got what I need. I want to go home. I want to get out of here. And they said, let us call the woman and ask her. And they called Rebecca and said to her, will you go with this man? And she said, I'll go. Unusual. This is a very unusual thing to happen. For them to ask the woman, do you want to go now or just forget it? Do you want to go now? Do you want to wait the 10 days? She was given that choice, which I think is it's very unusual. Again, it's a patriarchal society. She was unmarried. So they stood to get, a dowry, right? So they were going to get a dowry for her marrying Isaac. It could have been a huge thing. We don't know if they talked about that the night before or whatever, but they stood to get a lot. But she's given the choice. Stay here for 10 days, or go right now. So anybody know what she said? I will go. So they sent away Rebekah's sister and her nurse and Abraham's servant and his men. All right, so they sent them away, and they gave a blessing. So if somebody could read verse 60.
And they blessed Rebekah and said to her, our sister, may you become the mother of thousands of 10,000s, and may your descendants possess the gates of those who hate them.
May you become mine says thousands of 10,000s. Does that sound familiar from anything else that we've ever heard? Let's go back to Genesis 12, 1 and 2. Well, let's just go to verse 2. We know this really well anyway. So 12 and 2 says, and I will make of you, Abraham, I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and him who dishonors you I will curse. And in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed. Rebekah's family gave a very similar blessing to her. That's wild to me. That is just crazy. How did they know to say this? Obviously God, but they were speaking over her the same thing that God spoke over Abraham. Wow. She had to be the matriarch of all of us. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? What happened to Isaac and Rebekah? They had who? Who did they have? Nope, not Jesus. Not yet. We're not there yet.
Jacob.
Jacob and Esau. What happened with Jacob? Jacob had the 12 tribes of Judah that came from this chance, let's say chance meeting at a well. Wow. I'm always blown away by the detail that God goes to get what he needs. To have this servant show up at the well at exact right time of the evening to be there with his camels, as they were part of this, but as with his camels, and he was there and saying, I'm thirsty, I need a drink. And Rebekah just so happens to come walking down. I got my little jar, I'm coming to get a drink. She just happens to be there. She just happens to be the one that he sees. And her family just happens to give her a very similar blessing that God gave Abraham. Isn't that crazy? Because she couldn't go back to her family couldn't go back to the Bible and go, oh yeah, I remember something about Abraham. Abraham is, and oh, let me see what it says in here. They didn't have that. She didn't have this reference that we have. We can go back and say, look at this. This is similar to this. So when we talk about Rebekah in this part that we're reading, we know that later she does something not right, ended up right, whatever. We're not talking about that now, but what was let's talk about her character. Let's talk about her character. Let's talk about her character from her family's perspective. We see the servant saw something in Rebekah, obviously, and she went and did all that she did to just because. Oh, yeah, you need a drink? Sure, let me get your camel some water too. She was just doing what she was doing. Has God ever seen you when you're doing what you're doing, and he reaches out and says, I'm going to bless you for that? Anybody have a testimony of something that you have done and God just reached out and says, I'm going to bless you for that? You're just doing who you are. And God comes up. That's all right. He can tell us. Come here. Come here. Oh, you have a question? You didn't? Okay. So, has God ever done anything for you? Did you ask him to do it, or he just decided he wanted to?
We decided.
He just decided. Isn't that cool? Isn't that cool how he blesses us? Yeah. You got it. That's the question. You want to tell us about it?
So, once God decided, me and my family were about to go, in 2 days, we're about to go to, yeah. We're going on spring break, and we're going to St. Louis.
Oh, that'll be so fun. Did he bless you guys with that trip?
Yes.
Yes, awesome. Thank you. Anybody else have a testimony? I bet you can't beat that one. You're just doing what you're doing, and God says, I'm going to bless that. Donald Dean, you're looking at me. Come on, let's hear it. So he blessed us by early retirement by the world standards. So I was 58, Don was 60, and we both were retired. And none of y'all noticed the difference in who we were, what we did, how we did it, because God blessed us to be able to retire at that time. So, and we weren't doing nothing but doing what we're doing. And God says, that's good, that's enough. Anybody else want to share? So here's Rebecca doing what she's doing, getting the water for her family. Getting water for her family. And she's like, yeah, I'll give you a drink, and I'll give you water for your camels. And she became our matriarch. She became our matriarch because she stepped into that role. God's like, this is the one. Is she going to do what I asked her to do? And she did, even if she didn't know that that's what was going to be happening, which I'm sure she probably did not. All right? So Rebecca, verse 61, then Rebecca and her young women rose and rode on the camels and followed the man. Thus the servant took Rebecca and went this way. Has anyone ever rode a camel? I did. When you're at, what's the name of that place? Grant's Farm. They let you ride a camel, and I talked Don into letting me ride a camel. I was instantly sad I got on that camel. Instantly. Does anybody, have you ever pet a camel, touched the camel, felt that hump? That thing is as hard as a rock. It hurt to sit on that thing. We went around in a circle that was smaller than this room, and I'm like, I'm done. Let me off this camel. She rode that camel for 25 to 30 days. Because it says, what does it say? Arose and rode on the camels and followed the man. So she had to get on that camel. She had to go back to Negev to where Isaac was on that camel for 25, 30 days. How many people would take a trip like that with a man that you've never met and go 500 miles away from your family that you probably aren't going to see too often? Yeah. Through the desert. I hope they were ready for the desert. I'm sure they were, because just that area was the Fertile Crescent, and it had water, and they knew that the rest of all around did not have water like that. So they kind of knew what a desert was, I'm sure. But riding that camel, oh my gosh, there is nothing comfortable about a camel. And they walk kind of like this the whole time. You're going back and forth, riding on that hump that is as hard as a rock. All right. So that's just kind of an aside. But anyway, Rebecca said, I will go. And she took off for 25, 30 days through the desert to get to Isaac. So then going down to verse 63. 62. Now Isaac had returned from this place and was dwelling in the Negev. And Isaac went out to meditate in the field towards the evening, and he lifted up his eyes and saw, and behold, there were camels coming. And Rebekah lifted up her eyes, and when she saw Isaac, she dismounted from the camel and said to the servant, who is that man walking in the field to meet us? And the servant said, it is my master. So she took her veil and she covered herself. And the servant told Isaac all the things that he had done. He just happens to go out in the field as the camels are arriving with Rebekah, and Rebekah happens to look up at the same time Isaac looks up, and they meet across the field, eye to eye. That's what I, yeah, I thought that's pretty funny. But they just happen to look up at the same time and see each other. That is our God. I am going to get you from here to there. It may take a long time. You may be riding on that uncomfortable camel. You may be thirsty. You may be leaving everything you know. You may be leaving your comfort. You may be leaving the Fertile Crescent and food and water and transportation that is there all the time to go to a place that may have water or may not have water. Probably doesn't have a lot of vegetation going on. You're going to have to go look for some animals and some food and et cetera and et cetera. But I'm going to get you there to the place that you need to be. So she had to do, I just can't imagine just leaving with a bunch of strange people and going 500 miles away from my family to meet someone I've never met before, someone I don't know. That's just it doesn't compute in my head. It just does not compute in my head. But Rebecca somehow knew that this is what she needed to do. She had no hesitation stepping into this role as a wife to this man who was her first cousin, but had no problem stepping into that role. She was blessed with, "Oh, our sister, may you become thousands of tens of thousands." She was going to become the matriarch of all of us. That's some character. That's some character. So we are going to be reading about some other women in the Bible. I can give you a list. Oops. I can give you a list of the other women that we'll be talking about. One is Deborah. I thought I'd be doing Deborah, but I'm not. There's the group of 5 sisters who helped shape the law. I don't know if anybody remembers that. There's Deborah and Jael. There's the wise woman, the woman of Shunem, the lady of wisdom. So there you go. So I'm sure you know who all of these people are. Many of them, we don't even know their names. We don't know their names, but they're in the Bible. And they did what they did. So what would happen if that servant had met Rebecca and she's like, "I don't know you. I'm not going nowhere with you. You can't come to my house. Go away." What would have happened? We wouldn't have had Rebecca. We wouldn't have had the same thing that God wanted if she had said no. I think he would have, yeah. I think obviously it wouldn't have been Rebecca. Maybe there, and then we wouldn't have had Jacob and Esau, right? And we know that story. We know that, Rebecca, some people say that God predicted it, so she had to be shady in order to get, but I'm thinking God doesn't ever ask you to be shady. Maybe he already knew she was going to be shady and put Jacob up before Esau. I don't know. Well, he did know, but, I don't know. I'm making zero judgment because the Bible doesn't let us know if it was bad or good. He just said it happened. So there's that. So I am finished. I don't know if anybody else had any other questions or comments or concerns. Ooh, he didn't know the password.
I just think about, just Rebecca, and I thought, well, maybe when they had dinner that night and the servant was telling them who he was and where he had come from, maybe that gave her a sense of comfort that she was at least going to some relatives.
Exactly. I was thinking that too, because they knew they were related. The servant knew who they were, that it was Abraham's family, so he did know that. So that part's good. But it'd still be hard.
Yeah.
Has she ever met him? Does the family keep in contact with them? A lot. There's a lot.
And he got 10 camels, and he gave me gold bracelets, so maybe they got money for sure.
Yep. And you could see all the stuff on the camels.
And so it began.
Yes.
I got some signs that maybe it's good.
Yeah. Yep. I got some ideas. So yeah, but it's still, you have to think about that trip. You have to think about.
And then I began to think about myself. I'm like, I'm all the way here in Illinois from Louisiana, and I didn't know
Yeah, exactly.
But I knew I had this. This was an opportunity that I had to take. I had choices, but this was one I had to take. And 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 just like the servant was telling God, I remember, when I was in the interview, and it was no Memorial. Memorial is the May one, right? Memorial. The day after Memorial Day, and I'm sitting there and I'm talking to the Lord because before I left, I told my pastor, and he had preached the word. He said, "Some of you believe in God for some things, and I'm touching and agree and with you that it'll happen by June 1st." And I remember sitting in the office after my interview in the HR back. I made it back to HR and gone around, and I'm sitting there talking to the Lord in my head. I'm like, "Okay, Lord, we're done with this." And so I'm believing by June 1st. I said, but it normally takes a week or two for them to give you an answer. I say, and right in the midst of my talking to the Lord, the lady turned around, Kelly turns around and said, "Mel, they want you." And she's like, I normally don't get feedback this fast. I normally don't get that. And then I'm sitting there in the middle, and this is like, call my name again, Melba. I was like, yes. Say, they want you. Are you interested? What do you? I said, oh, yes, yes, yes. And so right there, on the same day that I got interviewed, was the same day that I accepted the job here.
Amen.
So yeah.
Yeah, just doing you. You were doing you. Here I am. All right, I'm going to go do an interview, and God says, "This is the one. This is the place. This is the thing that was going to bless you and your family. This is for you."
And how I got the interview, it was crazy too, because State Farm came to my campus. I was finishing up my master's. State Farm came to my campus. I was, different companies interviewing. I saw the lady that came for State Farm. I talked to her, but they were looking for computer science graduates, and which that was my undergrad. But at this time, I'm like, okay. I talked to her. She got my information like that. We just had a conversation. And then it was a call, and it's a long story, but anyway, in a long story of it, I had to release my current job, which I was working for the Postal Service. I had to release it in faith, and didn't tell anyone but my pastor. And trusting God to give me a job. Another job had come through, but it wasn't the job that, And then I come home, and it was a number on my phone said, when you had to call ID box, Bloomington, Illinois. I said, I don't know nothing in Bloomington, Illinois except State Farm headquarters. Didn't leave a message or nothing. I called the number back. And I said, this is Melba Freeman, and I'm calling. Someone called. I was just trying to call to see who had called. And they said, hold just a second. And fine. And she's like, oh, it was the HR lady who I had met on campus. She called, and she said, are you still interested in coming up for an interview? I said, oh, sure. I'm like, oh, sure. Okay. They said, okay, somebody will call you back and make arrangements.
That's crazy. That's crazy. But God knows where he wants you. He knows where you need to be. He knows these things. And it's us who are like, should I do this? I don't know anybody in Bloomington Normal. I don't know anybody. I don't know anybody at the baby fold. I don't know. I don't want to leave where I know my comfort was Decatur. That's where I was teaching at the time. I don't know anybody at the baby fold. What am I going to do at the baby fold? And then he just leads you step by step by step, if we are willing to step out of our comfort zone. So we'll be talking about that more on Sunday, just so you know. All right, is there anybody else had any questions or comments or whatever or anything? Oh, Ann. Oh, sorry.
Her story is similar to mine. When I moved out here with the 5-year-old and the 17-month-old, for a State Farm opportunity, and when I moved out, it's like I'm Faith. It's like, you going? Yeah. They had me down as being relocated, and who knew in Bloomington? Nobody but God, with my 5-year-old and my 17-month-old. But you got to be so mindful, because I moved out in faith. It was great. I didn't have no anxiety, no nothing. But you got to be careful who you hook up with friends.
Exactly.
And I was able to be around some friends, my girlfriend and stuff like that. And it was like, you moved out here with your 5-year-old and your 17-month-old? Oh my gosh, you don't have nobody out here? And then those little seeds start plants inside your head. And then you started getting fearful, like, oh my gosh, I did do that. Why did I do that? I don't have, like start second guessing yourself. So you have to be so mindful when you do step out. It's like stepping out in faith and trusting God.
But when you step out in faith and you're trusting God, hopefully those little seeds of doubt from somebody else you can rebuke them. You know God. You learn God well enough to be like, okay, he didn't say that. He didn't say that. He didn't, Yes, Martin.
This is so interesting hearing those two stories. And so the person before I got hired, they had already hired someone for my position. He never showed up.
Just never showed up.
Just never showed up. And so I think you said something earlier. God will place you where he wants you to be. And
Exactly.
I firmly believe that in my heart of hearts.
Because when I left Decatur, I was literally just visiting the baby fold because they had an autism program and I was working with kids with autism, blah, blah. And then they're like, well, you want to work here? And I'm like, in my head, I'm thinking, no. And I'm like, oh, And they're like, well, you could work here for the summer. Do you work there in the summer? I'm like, no. And I'm like, okay, that'll work, because I always look for a summer job anyway. And then from there, they're like, well, you want to interview? You could do this. And I took a $10,000 pay cut, $10,000 pay cut to come to the baby fold. And at the time, because I wasn't saved at that point, but I knew that that's where I was. I believed in God. I knew he worked in my life. Did I think he was doing that? No. But I knew that that's what I needed to do. And so when I came to the baby fold, I have never had more money since I came to the baby fold and a $10,000 pay cut than ever in my life. He wanted me there. He wanted me there. And I know that that was my ministry. I got saved. I knew it was my ministry working there. I met lifelong friends, husband, all of these different things by saying, yes, I'll leave Decatur and I'll come here. I could have easily had a lot more money in Decatur, but God wanted me here. And he showed me the money ain't nothing to me. The money's not nothing to me. So we need to also remember those trophies, those things that we have done when we have stepped out on God, and God has just taken us leaps and bounds or whatever to keep those trophies. So when it comes to the time next time, God says, okay, I want you to do this. Move to a new church where you knew one person and just come to this church. And he moves you there. And then he moves you there. And just all of those different things. So I'm not sure how we got off on that tangent. But just Rebecca leaving her family to go to this other, a world away, and at that time, a world away, 500 miles away, for her to move there to be with Isaac. And to see each other across the field and be like, oh, end of story. Story's over. We're done. We got it. God's got what he needed. So just remember all of those things when God is saying, I need you to X, Y, Z. All right. It's right on time. So God, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for showing us how you take us from here to there, how you take us from this person to that person, how you lead us and you guide us. And if we are following you, there is nothing that can stop us. So I say thank you for that. Thank you for showing us this bit about Rebecca and what she did but to follow this servant back to Isaac. And we say thank you for that as well, God. And I just want to bless the offerings that will be coming forth. Thank you for the ability to give an offering, to share an offering, and to bring it to your house, God. And we thank you for that. And we say amen and amen.